Hello and welcome to another episode of the MDS Women in Movement Disorders Leadership Spotlight Series. I am Rupa Rajan, a movement disorder neurologist from New Delhi, India. For today's session, I'm honored to welcome Professor Pille Taba, who is Professor of Neurology and Head of the Institute of Clinical Medicine at University of Tartu, Estonia. She's the current chair of the European section of the International MDS. I thank Professor Taba for her time today and welcome her to the interview. I request Professor Taba to briefly introduce herself.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. So everything was correct. I am a neurologist on movement disorders, but not only, because in Estonia we have no privilege to have only focused in one area. So primarily general neurologist, and now, yes, my research has been on movement disorders. And also I'm chairing our Department of Neurology and Neurosurgery in our university, additionally to heading the institute. So I think that for anybody, it is like together some kind of focus on special area and general neurology here, but also I have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. It is something for women's life. And I'm happy to start with this, and I shall, I think, to finish also with the same words, that life includes several areas, several sides and topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Taba. So we knew Professor Taba as an inspiring clinician and a researcher in the field of Parkinson's disease and a dedicated mentor and teacher to many of us. It was really interesting to know about these other aspects of her life. And I would like to begin this interview by asking Professor Taba to walk us through the highlights of her career. So how did your journey begin? And what are the important turning points or milestones in your journey so far?
So you have asked very kindly about milestones, because exactly that's what we have in our lives. Some kind of decision points where to go to study. And then when already in general level studied, how to specialize. And I think that the most important for me was 5th year in my studies, where was included also neurology. Because definitely until now, I'm sure that brain is the most interesting part of human body. And even from one side, we know so much and more, but from other side, there are still secrets. That is very interesting, like our emotions or behaviors, so on. But again, inside of this neurology, there are movement disorders like some kind of very variable and very interesting area of brain diseases. And that's why I have started like the first introducer in our university to study this area. And actually I was PhD supervised by neurosurgeon, because there was no neurologist yet before who could be like focused in this area, but neurosurgery already existed, like a functional neurosurgery. So it was my start, and now I'm very happy that I have several PhD students and researchers around me in our university. And also the next step was creating Movement Disorder Society in Estonia. It was already some 17 years ago, and then going to international movement disorders community was like next challenge, I would say, first, because when I started, I was quite alone, but now it is my professional family.
Yes, thank you so much for that introduction. So what has been your experience, I would like to know, as a woman navigating this path and this path to a leader in this field? Because as you just rightly said, there are so many, and I would say that, you know, in majority of the world, this in professionally too, this ability to specialize, ability to make choices, sometimes it's difficult for women. So how has your experience been, Professor?
Yes, I agree, but this experience as being a woman and doing career quite different, could be in different countries. And I would say that in Estonia, I never met any kind of restriction due to being a woman, but these have been my own choices because I made my PhD after my third baby. And it was very good time. I had made all my experiments and data collecting already before her, but actually it has given me time to be at home for her, but still to do some working also. And I think that women should maybe more to try to put together different sides of life and to do simultaneously such kind of things like working and children, family, but it is pleasure. That's one point, I think. If you like to do all of this, then it is not difficult. But I never met any restriction when being elected for some position. Also not in movement disorder society, because I would say it is encourage women to promote themselves. That is what we cannot do enough, I think. To say I'm good, I never did it, but we should maybe more to say this in case when we are good and involved in different research areas and different teaching and study communities. So that is something what we should learn to do, but additionally of doing also to promote these activities.
Thank you so much, Prof. Taba. So on a practical note, how did you actually juggle all these responsibilities? Any tips to your audience on maintaining, as you just discussed, the work-life balance?
Yes, that's a case what to think about. And that needs, of course, some kind of resources. I mean, even more like people who are around us inside the family, in our workplaces. And when we are supported enough, then we can do anything. I think so. And that is what has happened to me, not only in my home institution, I mean, University of Tartu. I have been encouraged to do research. My supervisor said, yes, of course, do this. And you are able, and we have patients, we have databases just to start. But the same has happened to me in movement disorder society. But there was some kind of basis for this. I started to invite our guest lecturers from this community to Estonia. And when they saw that we have such kind of facilities, such kind of research networks, such kind of people, then it was already like natural development to be involved more and more myself in this community in the means of research, organization, also teaching, because we should also use our background. What was my background was East Europe. That is also language skills, different languages from here, Russian, Swedish, Finnish. And when we are involved in such kind of connections, then it is possible to go on and to find a place in this community, role in this community. And that's what has happened with encouraging by the leaders of Movement Disorder Society, first European section, but also from our home institution and these countries and communities that are surrounding us.
I think that's really very inspiring to all of us, because the MDS has been really a strong force in shaping the careers of many of us. So it's really good to know how involved it has been. So what would be your biggest piece of advice for women pursuing a movement disorders career?
I think that is a more general advice is for any first young neurologist and then already senior neurologist. First, when to start research and teaching, a good supervisor is really pleasure and possibility to discuss and to go on with work. Also, we should learn to make our choices, our decisions, and we should learn also to decline, not to be too tired. We should make choices also, and this means that we cannot do maybe everything what is offered, but we should know first ourselves what we want and what is our preference. And then, of course, also domestic support or home support is very important. So we should not divide our activities like home and work. It is not the main thing to choose one of these, but to combine. And when we have support from home, we are much more capable. And we should find happy moments to charge our batteries. It's very good to have some kind of hobby, not too time consuming, but for example, I play saxophone and I go to forest. That's something that gives me possibility to relax. It is not very important to take much free time, but it is important to find really pleasuring, relaxing opportunity. And we should, if to talk about professional thing, I think that in clinical specialty, it is important to see patients and to see also rare patient and to have a possibility to discuss with expert in our area, also to learn basic sciences, also to learn theoretically, but to bring this theoretical knowledge to clinical practice. And another thing is professional networks. That's what I said, my professional family is Movement Disorder Society. And I think in this case, we are capable and able to make career. Actually, I never thought about making career like an aim. It just happened, you know, when I did all these other things. So I think it's my advice, do everything, girls, and continue like women, growing up to expert, and then just to continue like my stage of life is, my children are adult, and in some way they became like my professional team, because my daughter-in-law is geneticist, my one daughter is biostatistician, and my third daughter is medical students. So we should not divide the sides of life, but it just comes together around us ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Taba. I mean, that is, what you have described is, I would say, rather than a work-life balance, it's been a work-life integration. And I'm so happy to hear that. And thank you so much for your time today and sharing these valuable opinions with us. I'm sure that it would be of great use and inspiration to many women colleagues around the world. Thank you so much.